on, let me try this.
Yeah, try.
Does that work?
Yeah, that works now.
Damn it! Now I have 70 seconds to talk.
It's okay. You can do it.
Okay, so why we think that Ash should absolutely evolve Pikachu, even if it is against his will, is, let's see, I have like 2 or 3 reasons. The first reason is that the reason Pikachu's desire to stay a Pikachu is actually irrelevant because a human's will in the Pokemon world is always prioritized over the Pokemon themselves. It's analogous to how we treat animals in the status quo. How we treat another species by eating and killing them, and by that becoming a routine, accepted practice, establishes and enforces a hierarchy in the natural world. And you can see in the Pokemon world, we catch, manipulate, and physically harm Pokemon for minimal gain, for gym badges, all the time. So clearly, a Pokemon's will is subordinate to a human. Ash has no obligation to respect Pikachu's wishes. But even if he does, we think that this actually enhances Pikachu's ability to self-actualize in the real world. Because once he becomes a Raichu, he gets a real...
Okay, so Alexa made some interesting points. I'm going to rebut them with a couple of major points myself. So, I think what she's saying is that there's sort of a conflicting rights claim at play here. So on the one hand, she says that humans have an interest in training Pokemon and becoming the best that they can, and the only way they can do this is by somehow violating the rights of Pokemon. But at the same time, we would argue that Pokemon also have a claim to rights. Now, she gives you this analysis about human-animal relationships in our world, as opposed to the Pokemon world. So the first response to this is that this is a descriptive claim, and not necessarily a philosophical claim. So it's an observation about the way that things are currently in this world, not an argument as to why things ought to be the way that they are. So I would argue, actually, that the relationship between humans and animals is actually sort of unfair to the animals. But consider for a moment that we're not actually living in the real world. This is the world of Pokemon. And I think that given that we're living in the world of Pokemon, creatures like Pikachu have shown themselves able to distinguish good from evil over and over again. And that's one of the classic tests that we use to evaluate whether a being is sentient and whether a being is intelligent. I think that the fact that Pikachu knows to avoid Team Rocket and to go towards Ash, and he understands that Ash is his friend, is evidence that Pikachu has some compelling rights claims. And I don't think you can discount all of those by saying that we should violate Pikachu's rights in every single circumstance. I think Pikachu's will to not evolve is an example of is an example that he does have some intellectual autonomy and that should be respected.
So I think Denise goes for the wrong strategy here, which is to try and prove within 90 seconds that Pokemon have like inherent rights claims, just because Pikachu differentiates between its owner and Team Rocket, which is not its current owner. So the reason why this is fallacious is because I already gave the logical warrant, right? The reason why Denise can't show us that our current practices of treating animals badly, eating them, slaughtering them, is actually immoral, is because this is just how the natural order has been established. We find that animals may be sentient, may be able to differentiate between right and wrong, but not to the same level or extent as humans. And considering that Pikachu's actual realizations are limited to repeating its name over and over again and shooting thunderbolts discriminately or indiscriminately, we would say that there's the same natural hierarchy between animals and Pokemon as there is between animals and humans, or humans and Pokemon and human animals. So I don't think it's enough to say that just because it is a status quo, there's no reason for it. There clearly is a reason. This has been a tradition that's established within the society. Pokemon are used for human gain. But the other point that Denise fails to respond to is that this is actually good for Pikachu's own self-actualization prowess, right? It gets a whole new set of abilities, a whole new set of actions that it's completely unaware of in the status quo.
Okay, so first of all, it's bad for self-actualization because once you evolve using a stone, you can't learn any more new moves. So there's that. First of all, Pokemon spec. The second response I have is that, so in the world, okay, so let's play ball with the fact that we're contextualized within a certain society for now. Like, let's say there's a relationship between humans and animals, like, that's fine. So, given that that's true, there's also a certain sort of order of things in the Pokemon world, right? We sort of understand what's good and what's evil. So we clearly understand that Team Rocket is evil from everything that we're told about the series. The reason why they're evil is because they exploit Pokemon, they capture Pokemon, they steal them from trainers, and they use Pokemon for their own personal gain. So given that all the villainization that goes on around Team Rocket's actions in the series and in the games and in every piece of Pokemon lore that you'll ever read, I think that it's a fair extension of that sort of moral framework to say that, in general, we don't think it's right to use Pokemon. It's just a consequence of the way that things are, that trainers do have some sort of ownership over their Pokemon, but I think even when that's true, trainers still have relationships with their Pokemon, and they try to respect their autonomy whenever possible. Like we saw in one of the early episodes of the series, like when Pikachu recognized Misty, Pikachu made a conscious decision not to battle against Misty because she was his friend. And I think that given that Pokemon can make sophisticated decisions like this about what they want to do and what they don't want to do, they're not behaving on some kind of like pre-programmed track or some kind of like instinctual response to things. I think there is intelligent thought going on, and I think we should respect intelligent